Today we're going to cancel a lady on The View whose name apparently is Sarah, though I don't know her last name and I don't feel like looking it up. She earned herself applause and lots of You Go girls yesterday during a debate over vaccine passports. Sarah came out in favor of the passports, and here is her reasoning. Let's listen.
I cannot argue privacy on a public health issue like this when I don't understand how the most private thing in my body, my uterus, seems to be open for business when it's convenient politically. So I will say that these passports are a great idea.
Uterus open for business. Well, we don't need to know about that. That's your own concern. Now, Planned Parenthood, by the way, of course, tweeted that clip out, loved it. As I said, lots of feminists expressed their appreciation of her point there. I can't quite join them in their round of applause, though, mostly because that was extremely dumb. And let's count the ways. First of all, what exactly are you saying here, Sarah? That you think you don't have privacy with respect to abortion, so therefore nobody should have it with respect to vaccinations? If I can't have privacy, then nobody can? Is that your position? I'll do you a favor and assume that that wasn't your point, even though that was literally the point that you were making. I'll assume that you were, in a clumsy way, just attempting to note what you perceive to be a contradiction. You see it as hypocritical or ironic that people who oppose abortion would also oppose vaccine passports. But the problem is that the hypocrisy and irony actually runs entirely the other way. See, there's nothing contradictory about someone arguing that we shouldn't be forced to get vaccines, and also that we shouldn't be allowed to kill our children. Those two positions are in no way whatsoever at odds with each other. I can advocate for privacy when it comes to vaccines, yet still say that you shouldn't be granted the privacy to kill your baby. You see, I can believe both of those things, and I do. There's nothing logically unsound about arguing that privacy should extend as far as vaccines, but not as far as killing babies. Meanwhile, you're professing a belief in privacy rights that is so absolute, so radical, that it even permits you to kill your own child, but you don't think we should have the privacy to decide what vaccines we take? You go from a privacy rights absolutist to an anti-privacy absolutist. You go from bodily autonomy extremism to chucking bodily autonomy out the window completely. You say that you have the privacy rights and autonomy to kill a person, but not to decide what vaccines you put in your body? You have taken the extremist position on both sides of these issues. You have done that. What's happening here is something very similar to what happens with the capital punishment debate, right? People who are anti-capital punishment and pro-abortion will point at the pro-capital punishment and anti-abortion side and accuse us of having a self-contradictory view. If we say we're pro-life, then how could we possibly support the execution of criminals? But of course, there's nothing remotely contradictory or arbitrary about the view that killing innocent and defenseless children is wrong, yet executing convicted adult murderers is right. One can believe it justified to execute a man who, say, raped and killed a child without also believing that it's justified to crush an infant's skull in the womb. Those two positions are not at odds with each other. In fact, they line up quite logically and sensibly. We are so opposed to the murder of innocent people that we think the people who commit those crimes may, in some cases, be eligible for the harshest punishment. It's our, for those, and not every pro-life person is in favor of the death penalty, by the way. Many are not. But as someone who is, I will say it is partially my conviction, my belief in the value of human life that causes me to be in favor of the death penalty. Because I consider it to be such a heinous act to kill an innocent person that the harshest available punishment should be applied to you. You may not agree with this point of view, but to pretend that it's incoherent is silly. It's a perfectly coherent point of view. I'll tell you what is incoherent. It is incoherent to say that a child-killing rapist or a serial killer has a right to live, but a baby doesn't have a right to live. It's incoherent to treat the execution of a convicted murderer as some great injustice, and yet to celebrate the execution of infants. Once again, the contradiction, the moral insanity is all on the other side. Even though I'm used to it, I still can't help but be almost shocked at the gumption of the pro-abortion side that they would accuse us of being moral hypocrites when they're the ones who support executions only for the youngest and most defenseless among us. That position is simply not defensible itself. Second point for our friend Sarah, just a sort of a technical point. Sarah claims, as all pro-aborts do, that pro-lifers are somehow trying to control her uterus. Well, let me allay those concerns, Sarah, and tell you that we don't care about your uterus. We're not the ones talking about it. You guys are the ones who are constantly talking about your uteruses and other assorted body parts. You're the one always bringing it up. And it's really weird. I got to tell you, it's very weird for us because that's not what we're trying to talk about. Like, we're talking about abortion, and then you weirdos come running in. What are you doing talking about my body and my uterus? We're not. Calm down. That's not the conversation we're looking to have. Our point is not about your body. It's not about you, actually, if you can believe it, you narcissist. It's about the body of your child. And the only point we're making about the body of your child is that, one, your child's body is not your body. They're two separate, distinct entities. And two, you shouldn't have the right to destroy your child's body. That's it. That's all we're saying. Yes, your child's body is dependent upon your body, but that doesn't make his body the same as your body, and it doesn't make it okay to kill him. Just because somebody is dependent upon you, that doesn't mean that you should be able to kill that person. If it did, that would mean that parents would have the right to kill their children way beyond the womb. Infants, babies, toddlers, adolescents, even some grown adults are dependent on their parents for survival. A newborn baby, speaking of newborns, is nearly as dependent on his mother's body out of the womb as he was inside it. Do you think that gives you the right to bash a newborn's skull, against a rock and throw him in a dumpster? I would hope not. Most of us recognize that parents have a responsibility to their born children. We compel them, right? We compel them by law, by force, to care for their children. We say to parents, you have to. You don't have a choice. You have to care for your children. If you can't or you don't want to, you have to find someone who will. You have to make other arrangements. May not be difficult to do. You put them up for adoption. Some states make it easier than others for parents to offload their kids and find someone else to care for them. But whatever the process, there's a process in place, right? And you have to follow it. If you don't, you'll go to prison. What you can't do is just leave your kid on the side of the road. Least of all can you simply kill your child, right? The point of pro-lifers is that this principle, the principle that you are responsible to and for your child and don't have the right to intentionally harm your child, should apply in the womb just as much as it does outside of it. That's a consistent view. That is a rationally defensible view. That's a morally salient view, which is more than I can say about your position. A position that is as logically incoherent as it is morally deranged. A position that today has earned you the title of canceled. Listen, hit that subscribe button right now. Do it right now. I thank you for your compliance. It is somewhat appreciated.